how do we generate more cash day one than the cost to acquire the customer? And most of the time, the ideal is 2x. So you pay for that customer and the next one. But most of the businesses that are broken, it's actually an acquisition issue and a conversion issue from a financial perspective.
All right, if you ever wondered what a world-class number 2 or second in command can do for your business, then this episode's for you, because today I interviewed Tim Calise. Tim's a versatile entrepreneur, investor, consultant, and podcast host who helps service business owners uncover the profits hidden inside of their existing business. Now, by the age of 25, Tim had raised over $325 million for his investment company before moving on to building a 7-figure tech-enabled fitness business alongside his wife.
We actually expanded that business to covering about 30 different industries over the course of 2020, and we did it off of all affiliate and partnership.
And most recently, Tim was one of the 4 executive team members at GymLaunch alongside none other than Alex and Layla Hormozi, where he oversaw the development and launch of Alan. It's a SaaS company which grew from 0 to 20 million in ARR in 6 months.
We built a software product that more effectively and efficiently and touchless got more people to show up for sales consultations.
And now currently, Tim now has transitioned to helping make founders' dreams come true by implementing the product to profit framework as a sought after number 2 to ambitious founders. Tim is a wealth of knowledge on what it takes to focus in on the right levers in your business to 2x your day one profits and keep the visionaries in their zone of geniuses, and how to make operators even more effective, acting as a translator between both and providing that service to companies. Today's episode's a good one, so let's get into it. All right, welcome Tim Calise to the Part of Our Profits podcast. I'm excited for you to be here, so welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, man, it's been great to get to know you in the Happy Hustle Club. So Happy Hustle, for those of you who don't know, is a group called by Carrie Jack, who brings together a bunch of entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs that get together and balance lifestyle and business to create that perfect harmony of both. But before we get into our interview, which I'm excited to pick your brain on all the topics that we've been reviewing, what's something interesting about you that not many people know?
I am an avid Formula One fan. So regardless of where in the world they are, you can usually find me watching live.
Nice. So you're actually live at them.
I you are, if I can't travel there, I will certainly watch them live, which in some cases can be the middle of the night, but I try my best to watch them live as much as possible.
Okay. That's a bucket list item, just do a 10 one, but did you ever want to like race in one?
I would love to. I'm probably too tall at 6'3" to fit in the cars because you're basically laying down. But I have had some experience in car racing otherwise. Some that kind of more my speed and format. But I absolutely love it. The technology and the concept around it is it's like an elixir, I think.
I think there's something to that, like entrepreneurs and like even online marketers, just they want this like drive. I love motocross, like I love speed. Mm-hmm. I think that plays a part in our characters. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy for you to be here. We've got a lot to dig into. You've got an impressive resume. Just to note off a few notable accomplishments for Tim, like raised over $325 million before the age of 25. You founded and grew 6 companies to 7 and 8 figures. You're the VP of Business Development for GymLaunch, Prestige Labs, as well as Alan alongside Alex Hormozi. And you've helped service-based businesses increase their cash flow by over $10 million. And we were just talking about like partnership marketing strategies. And I was kind of like, Tim, do you got any experience in that? You're like, I've got all the experience in that. So we're going to dive into that because that's what this podcast is here for, to serve people looking to build better partnership programs, bring more money to their business that way. So one thing that caught my eye, Tim, it was really cool. So you said you're the director of everything. I like that title, but it's also like wearing multiple hats. But like, first off, how did you get started with working with Alex and going down like that adventure together?
Yeah, after the kind of financial services experience that I had earlier in my 20s, my wife and I decided to get into the fitness space. And after about 7 or 8 years in that, building gyms, a multi-unit gym chain, I was introduced to Alex through GymLaunch as a customer. So as someone who owned a gym, this is kind of 2017, 2018, GymLaunch was just coming on the scene. It was kind of the new business model, and there was a lot of great benefits to it that we wanted to introduce into our business. And then as part of that, Prestige Labs, which was GymLaunch's kind of sister company, which sold supplements, we ended up carrying a lot of those products in our gyms. And because we had so many units, we ended up being a top seller. We won a sales competition for Prestige Labs. And the prize, if you will, was a trip to come down and meet Alex and Layla. And that's where we kind of got to know each other. Alex gave me the recommendation very quickly to say, you're in the wrong opportunity vehicle, language that anyone who's followed him, he uses quite a bit. And he said, you should sell your gyms and go do something else. And the something else ended up being 3 or 6 months later, coming on board and helping build GymLaunch and the other affiliated companies.
Interesting. What was a turning point for you when you realized that like that current trajectory you're on wasn't necessarily where you wanted to go, or it wasn't like your superpower? So how did it, like, first off, did you have a background in running as like a number two? Did you see yourself doing this like with Alex's team and building this out, or did he identify that with you?
Yeah, so I have my kind of professional story arc crosses a number of different industries, initiatives, things like that. So I guess I never got the memo that, the kind of compounding interest idea of start somewhere and then let time take over. I have really distinct chapters of my career. And so it was finance first, then it was technology and fitness second. But when Alex and I were talking, especially in a hyper growth company, a lot of the principles that I had learned from capital raising to, how to run, the financial function of the business well, how to understand product market fit, a lot of these lessons that I had learned in a little bit of a different wrapper ended up being incredibly valuable. And the last one being, you'd mentioned I'm kind of the director of everything. One of my superpowers has been to be able to figure things out pretty efficiently. And so Allen, which was a software company, I had never built software in my life, but I had learned effectively everything I needed to know and was able to get in contact with folks that could teach me very quickly. And we ended up building basically a $20 million ARR software product, as you mentioned, with affiliates in about 5 months from launch. And so I think one of my superpowers has been to distill all this information and understand as a generalist the implications of decisions that we were making, and then filter those down to the directors that we had in each of the companies.
It's interesting. Like, so you had a completely different like background, but everything kind of diversified and came together in a beautiful harmony of now you can figure things out in these companies to kind of become the master executor in ways and strategist. It's interesting that everyone's got different backgrounds. And then like for me, the biggest background I wish I would have had was more financial backing in business, because I was actually a technologist, and then I went into blog writing, copywriting, and marketing. I had no background in it. But if I would have had a financial background, I could have applied that much more than the technology background, which didn't serve me at all. And I think that the program went under when I graduated. So the telltale sign probably wasn't going to be a big market for that.
Yeah.
So Allen, what's the acronym Allen stand for, by the way?
So it's basically automated lead nurturing. And the concept was, especially as a marketer, you can appreciate this. Everyone thinks about in an operating company, I need more leads, meaning I need more top of the funnel. And the reality is, specifically in gyms, 1 in 6 leads, about 18%, would ever show up for a sales appointment in a fitness facility. So imagine, if you will, GymLaunch is a consultancy for fitness facilities. We build the business model. We now have the right product mix. We have the right staffing model and all of those types of things. The next question is, well, now I just need more flow. I need more people coming in the door. And so they were banging down banging on the table saying, I need leads. Well, we taught them how to generate leads. But if only 1 in 8 ever show up, that was actually the leverage point, especially as the cost of leads were continuing to go up 2018, 2019, and into 2020. The efficiency around working leads was actually a critical element. And we tried to teach gym owners how to work leads better. And this might resonate with those that are listening. It usually kind of falls to somebody else on the team to kind of help do the follow-up sequences, especially in a brick and mortar. It's, the front desk person who really doesn't want to do it, but they have to do it. And so we said, let's just take all of that off of their shoulders. And we built a software product that more effectively and efficiently and touchless got more people to show up for sales consultations. So we actually owned the responsibility from 1 in 8, we were getting about 1 in 2, sometimes 1 in 3 leads to actually show up for a sales appointment with no heavy lifting required by the gym.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's still it's still in existence today, right? People are still using it. Are you guys looking to continue? Is that continuing to scale, or how does that get leveraged?
It was part of the exit. We sold kind of the conglomerate back almost basically 2 years ago now. Gosh, how quickly 2 years goes. December of 2022, Alex was the primary shareholder of those businesses and had an exit at that time.
Okay. Nice. Well, I was looking at the software. Another question too, just because I have to ask, can it be applied to different like verticals? Whether, you talked about GymLaunch or gym people bringing in leads. Could other partnership marketing programs use this type of software or something similar?
As I mentioned before, it started with gyms, and then kind of the story ended right around the early part of 2020, which we all know kind of COVID hit shortly thereafter. And so we had this product. It used machine learning, and we had a data science team. It was trained to get a gym client or prospect into a fitness facility physically, walking through the door. Well, COVID hit, the entire world went online. And so it took us about a week to take the model and train it from let's get someone to walk into a facility to getting on a Zoom call, because everybody went to Zoom consultations. And it took us about 3 seconds after we achieved that objective to say, holy, you know what? We just got a lead to show up for a Zoom call. The world is now open to us. And so we actually expanded that business to covering about 30 different industries over the course of 2020. And we did it off of all affiliate and partnership arrangements. So it started with marketing agencies that we partnered with to be able to bring either, in our case, we already had the gyms, but it was everything from dentists to a mattress store to Invisalign and other dental services. So just think high ticket services. We covered just about every one of those industries.
That's incredible. That's really attractive. And I still want to talk to you offline about that. That could be really cool to apply. I've always had the dream of like, how could we acquire more affiliates and influencers on that model? I hear you saying like, the agencies are using it to acquire higher ticket clients, but I'm like, how can we bring in more people in the door to an affiliate influencer program by utilizing AI software like Alan? I think it'd be an interesting conversation to have all on its own. I don't want to just go into that only one topic. It's got a lot to cover. So we'll continue that conversation. But one of the things I was thinking of is like everybody, for myself, whenever I first started a business, I wanted to be maybe like the head guy. I wanted to be like the company owner. How do you feel about kind of referring to yourself as like second in command in most of the positions you're in? And of course, you're like the head of command of your own business, but like walking in and being like the top operator or integrator in a business, like does that feel comfortable for you? And is that where you feel at home? Or is there like a bigger aspiration to be like the head of command? I just want to understand that a bit. Because like, you know what I mean? Like everyone wants to be like the Superman.
Absolutely.
Like, what about the sidekick, the Superman?
Yeah, your point's really well taken. And I will say earlier in my life cycle, my career, I felt this kind of resistance to playing the gladiator in every one of these situations that I was in. And what I mean by that is, I was kind of similar to your thinking, everyone wants to be the top dog. But what I realized about myself, and I can kind of look back and find elements of this even earlier in my childhood, I always enjoyed the experience of working with other people more so than me doing it on my own. And so I actually, and I tried to go down this route of let me do my own thing and be the guy. And every time I started going down that path, I just felt inside that I was on the wrong trajectory. And so fast forward to today, I personally believe that I am best suited to be in a group or a collaborative environment where I'm actually, and even in my business today, you could say that's kind of me running the show. I'm actually building a team of specialists across all the disciplines. So it's actually not about me. I want to be a connector. And that is actually one of my superpowers. So I've positioned myself over the last 10 years as a number 2 because I like being collaborative with the number 1 guy or girl, but I also like the collaborative effort of how do we use product, how do we find product market fit, how do we solve problems, but being kind of one of a couple of people in that room. That's where I'm most comfortable, and I process out loud. And so me being by myself, sitting behind a computer is a waste of time for me. I have to be talking and up and teaching and whiteboards, and my kids for the holidays got me this. If you can see it, it says, "Ooh, this calls for a spreadsheet." And that was their homage to, kind of how I like to approach the quantitative side of the business.
And that's like unique. I don't think that maybe some people don't recognize how unique it is to recognize your own talents and your own zones of genius that have nothing to do with a hierarchy of like, oh, I'm at the top of the food chain or not. Like, I didn't realize that till much later in life. I thought that I was a solopreneur. I thought I didn't like working with people. And then I realized as I started to work with better teams and really get integrated, I really enjoyed it. And in my best ideas, to your point, I love talking out loud. That's like my process is I have to talk it out. I can't like be by myself. And sometimes my wife will be like, okay, it's been like 60 minutes. You've talked it out enough. So you got to be careful who you do that with. But I agree with you completely. And I think it's a good lesson for everyone to look back on saying like, what do you enjoy doing and what do you not enjoy doing today? And, where are you best positioned to serve your business, yourself and your family, or the holistic approach at things, and just becoming a piece of that. And one other thing I'll mention is I've seen the synchronicity that happens for people and businesses that like, if they don't have the yin to the yang type thing, they're just constantly burning out because they're like a visionary, but they have no execution, or they have all execution and they have no vision in a way. I think it's important to like identify that. So on that point, operators, integrators, and like visionaries, what makes, because you've worked with quite a bit of visionaries in your roles, what are the outliers of success that you've noticed amongst like the top visionaries you've worked with?
I kind of sit between the two. I am more of the bridge builder between kind of the visionary and the integrator in most cases. So call it a translator, if you will. And that's typically because visionaries, when left to their own devices, will usually leave a path of destruction behind them because the team can't keep up with their brain. They're almost so high powered, right? So what I have found is that the best visionaries are actually almost disconnected from the implementation side, so they can actually let themselves be creative. I was just thinking about Alex specifically because I work so closely with him. He had a calendar that looked more like Warren Buffett's. Like when you open it up, there's a ton of white space. So for a guy who was a super high horsepower kind of person, he would spend hours in his creative mindset, because the reality is for the right visionary, for most visionaries, you need to make one or two big decisions every year. That is the reality. If you can make one or two high quality, well thought out, on target decisions, you can literally take the rest of the year off. In our case, Layla was the horsepower behind him to say, okay, now I know where we're going. What do we need to do to actually implement that across the organization? And so the outliers for me have been very crystal clear on where they want to go and understanding their role is very needing to only make a handful of really well-informed, well-thought-out decisions, and then giving them the space and taking the space to be able to do that effectively.
That's so powerful when you talk about calendars, because everyone thinks that the faster I fill my calendar, the more successful I'm going to be. And for myself, I'm still not in that sweet spot of just having time to strategize, creatively think, and kind of go in my zone of genius. I'm still working at that transition and getting there. But it's really powerful when you have those moments of clarity coming from creative thinking of just leaving space in your calendar to actually experience it. You open yourself up to it, you manifest, you can, to your point, one or two decisions can change the game for you this year. And it's not about hourly input, it's what you're getting as an output. So flip side, then let's talk about operators, because again, the unsung heroes, and even if you're the trader, you're watching operators all day long, potentially in some cases. What makes them really successful and what makes them super powerful to the right visionary?
So I think this is not going to be news to anybody, but when you have partnerships, the best partnerships or the best partners are complementary to each other. And so the best operators I've seen are the ones who wake up in the morning and the only thing they focus on is systems of process and in many cases people, because you have to work through the teams, right? And I use Layla as a great kind of prototypical, person in that seat. She was so good at understanding what needed to happen day to day to move the business forward, but she also kept Alex in check. And so you ask it kind of like, in a silo, the right operator is masterful at process and repeatability and cutting through the noise, things like that. But when you put the two together, a visionary without the respect of the operator will be a bulldozer.
Mm.
An operator with a inefficient or lost or confused visionary will be driven mad because they will be subject to these forces each and every day that they, quite frankly, will just burn out at some point in time. Now, Alex and Layla are married and all these other things, so that's somewhat unique. But having those two people with mutual respect, understanding, etc., is really quite important. And I find it to be significantly harder than I first would have believed it to be. But after watching it, it's good. It can be good for a period of time, but usually one force, the creative person usually will dominate because they are usually more of the sales and marketing person, and the operator is more of the day-to-day blocking and tackling. And so that could be a very difficult position to sit in, that operator position, in my opinion.
I think what you mentioned stood out to me was like respecting and like kind of creating boundaries for yourself too, knowing that you've been a visionary for so long. Now it's time to bring in an integrator or an operator. You have to respect that they're going to be challenging you on some things in a rightfully way. So they should be doing this because you've been wreaking havoc. You've been putting all these buildings on fire, asking everyone of everything yesterday needs to get done. You've asked somebody to step in and give you space. You need to respect that. And the operator needs to also, I think it's like a bit of a balance of like entertaining ideas, also to not curb the, we can't do that. So it's a very fine-tuned dance. And the fact that like married couple can do that. And I don't know if I could work with my spouse. Like I want to test. Yeah. It's a whole unique level of, who knows what could happen. But the fact that somebody can work, it's incredible. So let's talk a little bit regarding one of the big things. Like, we're part of the Happy Hustle Club. And the reason I'm there is to keep myself in check. And this has, a little bit to do with what we're talking about, but it's also more like lifestyle and balance. You've been part of some big companies. You've raised a lot of capital. A lot of this comes with a lot of stress. And I know you recently just had a big move with your family, and a lot of decisions go into that. And just, I want to know your approach at like working in all the positions you're doing. What's your philosophy on maintaining balance while create a thriving business and kind of like enjoying it, to Carrie's point, like enjoying the happy hustle and the journey throughout?
Yeah. So I think there's two things that I would bring up. So, and both very lessons hard learned. So the first is I did not do a very good job of managing my energy earlier in my career. I put myself in positions, and some of it was out of necessity, to be quite frank, around I was kind of out above my, over my skis a little bit, and I had to kind of learn some things along the way. And that for me caused a lot of anxiety because I was like, what if I can't figure this out? But the more wins I stacked, the more confident I felt going into those situations. And so that was just a bet on myself earlier on that ended up working out because I do have that belief that I'm able to figure those things out across time. The one is kind of an energy management. The second is I was not clear on what I thought I could do a lot of different things. And Carrie's actually helped me with this more recently. He's like, you can't be the best of the world at everything. You can be a generalist, but you're not at the best of the world at everything. No offense to anyone. And he was right. So the questions I asked myself is anytime I feel that kind of vibration of burnout or anxiety or things like that, it's usually because I have a misalignment somewhere. And for me, I've learned I'm more of the kind of nicer people pleaser. I have an element of that. Having hard conversations has been something I've had to learn how to do effectively because I would put off those decisions. And that is actually what caused me more hesitation than anything else. You mentioned we just made a big move. That was a family decision. We made the decision, I think, on a Friday, and the truck came less than 4 weeks later. I am wired now to be like, okay, what's the information we need? Does it make sense? Once the decision is made, we go. The old me would have I would have gone back and forth and hemmed and hawed and all of that kind of stuff. I'm much more action focused because I can think more clearly now than I have in the past.
That makes sense. You probably really refine that skill of like strategy and you applied it to your life almost like systematically. How do I break this down to make a proper decision rather than procrastinate over time? And I would say like you inspired me to kind of reflect back on like where I'm at with our family and is it the right community? Is it the right everything that I want as we continue to grow? So we haven't made the decision, but we started to talk about it, and that's like step one for me. But I mean, and really to focus in on like I want to understand a couple of things. I like asking people like, what's their seasons that they apply to their business, or do you apply seasons to your business? Right? Like you can't have a marathon sprint. Sometimes I feel like I'm in that, but I want to get to more of the cadence of like I sprint, and then it's marathon, then it's reflection, and then it's like rest type thing. Do you have seasons of your business that you look at that way?
I mean, I think my entire life has been made up of, you can call them seasons or chapters. And to use a Formula One analogy, the thing I like about Formula One cars, or that I'm always amazed by, is for anyone who hasn't been in motorsports, you effectively accelerate on a straight line, you brake at a straight line, and when you turn, you're generally not doing either of those. And so for me, the analogy is like I go full speed ahead in a straight line with whatever I'm doing. But when I want to change gears, I am hard on the brake, sharp turn, and then back on the gas again. So I don't do any half measures. And I think part of that for me is they're not seasons with this like, well, I had a job and then I had a side hustle and I tested it. And then there was kind of, I did that for a year or two. It's like hard end. What's the new chapter? What's the new beginning? And for me, it's what role do I have to play? And what I mean by that is for most of my career, I've spent in the builder mentality. I'm building companies, I'm building teams. And this season of my life, as it stands right now, because of the way I want to structure my life, I'm moving more into a mentorship, coaching kind of headspace because I want blank space on my calendar. During the companies that I've built in the past, it's all day, every day. Sometimes it's just brute force. I'm now kind of moving into a season of consolidation, which for me is more creative. I'm trying to kind of tap into that. That's documenting and demonstrating the lessons that I've learned along the way, kind of helping bring other people along. It's actually less about me driving the business and more about building the garden in which the next kind of round of flowers are going to grow. And that kind of collaborative component is critical in that.
That's a good approach. We all take on so many things and we try to juggle so many balls in the air and we don't do anything effectively. And to be able to let go of that has to let go of ego as well, which is hard. Like, and I experience this on a regular basis. I start things and I'm like, I want to make it all work, but ultimately I'm pulled from my zone of genius. I'm not doing the right things. I can feel it. Like, honestly, the older I get, the more I feel things, and it's not from digestive concerns, but like it's in my gut. I can feel I shouldn't be. What am I doing? And the longer you linger with that, I think the worse it gets. And there's detrimental things that happen in relationships, including family. And like, my worst fear is business taking over family and me losing sight of what really matters and the holistic approach at things. So I like your clear-cut approach at that. I think we can all learn from just the Happy Hustle itself, which is a great program that we're part of. So let's get back to business. I want to really understand, because there might be people listening going like, I kind of have an operator. I think I'm okay, but there's still things I want to make better. What are like, you walk into a company tomorrow or you start like you're consulting or coaching with somebody. What's like the first things that you're noticing that majority of people are doing the absolute wrong way, or something you can add an instant win to given your involvement?
Yeah. So I want to be very clear. I have a perspective on the world, which is this is not for everyone, but this is how I have chosen to look at this. And when I say that, I focus on product and finance more so than people, systems, and the kind of softer side of the business. For anyone who's at, a couple of $1 million a year in revenue or more, people systems matter a lot. It is simply just not my zone of genius. It's not my wheelhouse. So when I come in, I've actually borrowed a process from a great coach named Alex Sharfin, for those that know Alex. He talks about every business has 5 core functions. There's lead generation, lead nurturing, sales or conversion, product delivery, and resale, ascension, or retention on the back end. And so what I do is I generally tend towards looking at these problems. So first we'll evaluate the business to find out where the holes are. I generally skew towards most companies I work with, which are in the $1 to $3 million a year range, revenue range. Product is actually the thing that matters the most because they haven't found product market fit. And so when I come into a company, the things that matter are product. So looking at the existing customers, the segmentation, what the product stack looks like. And our goal is something we were able to achieve at GymLaunch, which is how do we generate more cash day one than the cost to acquire the customer? And most of the time, the ideal is 2x. So you pay for that customer and the next one. But most of the time, most of the businesses that are broken, it's actually an acquisition issue and a conversion issue from a financial perspective. So what we do is we try to recapture our ad spend or cost of acquisition as soon as possible. And most of the time, it's like, how do we do that? Is one of the first questions. And the second is, for anyone who doesn't have a multi-product stack in their business, that is something else we will implement because the one-size-fits-all solutions don't work anymore. Customers are too smart, the market is too smart, and you're generally leaving money on the table.
Interesting. So I like the 2xing of the day one return. I mean, that's pretty attractive. And you kind of categorize it as like a $1 to $3 million company at this point. What's like, again, I want to go back to partnerships because that's just what I'm really passionate about, like bringing affiliates and influencers to businesses. Cost of acquisition for me is like, what am I willing to pay on a flat rate to a partner, depending on, because like if I'm paying Facebook ad X amount of dollars for customer acquisition, why would I dilute that for my affiliate? If anything, I'd want to give them a bit more because they're a personality and extension of my sales team at that point. Yep. What are your strategies? Like walking into a company, let's just say you're walking into our company, we're looking to go from X million to X plus, 100% million, et cetera, whatever that double multiplier becomes. What's your strategy there? Like, how do you come in and how would you get more partners promoting, or what are strategies you've seen worked or case studies?
Yeah. So there's only 3 ways to acquire a customer effectively, right? There's organic, there's paid, and there's joint ventures, partnerships, affiliates, et cetera, right? So let's focus on the third. Where you spend the money is a little bit irrelevant from a modeling perspective. So we know that it's going to cost, we're willing to spend X dollars to acquire a sale. And I reverse engineer this. One of the things that I think businesses do wrong is they don't have enough margin on the front end product, that first purchase, to make it attractive enough for an affiliate to get excited. So what we will do is we will look at the customer journey in reverse. So if we say we're going to solve this problem because it is the highest value problem for the customer, we will then say, well, how much can we charge to solve that problem? And we will build in, and to your point, I am 100% in alignment. We actually increase the amount that we can spend, or we will offer out to an affiliate because we want them to be our best advocates, right? Pricing is a concept which is rooted more in art than it is in science, in my opinion. Most people are underpriced. So if we want to spend, let's just make this a practical example. If we want an affiliate to get paid $500 for every new sale, and we know our cost on, our cost of goods sold on that program is $500. That means we have $1,000 of hard cost. The question is, what product can we put out there that we can charge $2,500 for, or $29.97 or something like that? And we actually build the product in reverse because we want to know what the model looks like, and then we build the product. Most people build the product and then figure out how to price it. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I'm just glad you walked us through that because it's really powerful. And I think the positioning of who you're going after is really relevant too in terms of what is your payout? Because you might not have the capability to create a $2,500 product. So who you're trying to attract to the business and how you're acquiring them and how you're compensating them is very relevant to what you can actually produce in profit for your particular products and all your hard costs, et cetera. So I want to make sure that people listening understand that the translator, the operator, and the visionary, how they all work together. You have a framework, and I love frameworks and I love alliteration. So the product to profit framework, can you walk me through that just from start to finish and what it is for and who is it for?
Yeah, so it is the practical implementation of the concept we just walked through, which is my personal belief is today, a lot of companies, I work in service-based businesses primarily. Most service businesses think about marketing and advertising as a separate kind of initiative from product delivery. So number one, what we do is we shift from I need to generate marketing and advertising and acquisition assets to a documentation and demonstration concept of their core product. And we push that forward to give people a taste of what it's like to be a customer. So that's the first. The second is the product to profit is using product to demonstrate value. And then we achieve that day one cash greater than the cost of acquisition, whether that be Facebook ads or an affiliate or a partnership payout or whatever that might be. And we build the product stack and we work through how to identify which products to build to be able to do that. Because I think everyone would agree that if you had a machine, that if you put $50 in and got $100 out 48 hours later, you'd put a lot of dollars into that machine. So the question is, what needs to be true for that machine to exist in your business? And we do it highlighting the product, not making other kind of ancillary assets. We use your core product to help drive that equation. And that is the concept that we've built.
Interesting. And so what would be the timeline? Like, you come into a business, start helping with that. And I know it's like approximate because every company is going to be different. But like, what does the timeline look like to implement that type of process?
7 to 10 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was expecting like 7 weeks, but...
No, because the reality is in service, you have the ability to effectively test in real time.
Yeah.
So this isn't manufacturing or anything like that, right? These are concepts where we can go to the customer list that we have right now and say, hey, Joey, thank you so much for being a customer of ours or looking at us in the past. I have something new that I thought might be of interest to you. And here's how it works. Especially when we're scaling businesses, the only metric that matters early on is the number of offers that you make. And by and large, companies make far too few offers to their customers than they should. And what an offer is, it doesn't change your core product. What it is just a different way for someone to raise their hand and say, that sounds like something I'm interested in. So your core product might be, I'm in the coaching business. So I might have a core coaching offer, but I can say, or a coaching product, but I can say the offer today is I'm going to do a workshop to talk about how you can get your acquisition spend or your ad spend back within 48 hours of launching your ads or whatever it might be. And somebody would raise their hand for that. But the reality is that's not the business. So that's the entry point, and then they can become part of the core product. There are lots of entry points, and the more entry points or sockets, however you want to think about it, you can offer out to the market or to your prospect list, the more sales you'll make. And we just have to figure out which ones of those are the right ones to start.
I like that a lot because the first what I was hearing was like typical email list jargon of like, let's send more emails. And of course that could produce more sales, but I like the idea of restructuring the way the offer is being perceived or like, picked up upon, where it's like, oh, that caught my interest because now you're talking about this thing versus like, and I'll give you an example from our businesses. We used to talk about like stress a lot with one of our magnesium products. And then we move on to sleep. Now, that was a bit of a category change of an offer. But imagine if we said, hey, do you know your sleep score? Do you know your sleep chronotype? You're bringing them in different ways, but it's the same offer ultimately at the end. It's just the way you're acquiring them. So that's a huge perspective shift. I like that a lot. That might be the sound.
Well, yeah. So I mean, imagine going out to the market and saying, we'll help you feel better.
Yeah.
It might be true, but it doesn't get anybody moving.
No.
But the idea of better sleep is a more specific vertical. We help people, did you wake up in the middle of the night last night? Did you not feel rested when you woke up? Oh, now I'm interested. And you might have somebody come in on a sleep kind of offer, if you will. But then it's like, well, if sleep's being affected, how's your digestion?
Yeah.
And how's this? And how's that? So you know what I mean? So the question is, how do you get somebody to make that first, we call it going from a lead to being a customer. A customer is just someone who spent money with you once. And then a core client might be someone who's on a recurring revenue opportunity, a bundle opportunity, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that was a powerful shift. And we have similar strategy, different terminologies. So I used to call it like harmonizations to audiences, depending on what affinity audience we could reach. And then I call them super fans, right? The people that are just like buying your stuff left, right, and center because they're a super fan now of you rather than just a one-time customer, which is powerfully compounding as over time. So this is all great. And anybody who hasn't tried these concepts, I think that alone could make you a few $1 million extra, depending on the volume of your business. Who are you looking to work with, or who do you think's best positioned to be working with you, and how could you serve their business? I just want to make sure that like people know how to contact you and how many clients are you taking today and all those other things.
Yeah, so I work primarily with service-based businesses. I do some e-commerce and some SaaS, but primarily service businesses, anything with a recurring revenue component. So membership subscriptions, things like that. Kind of sub $3 million a year revenue, anywhere between 1 and 3 typically. And I help the person. So I'm a father. I have 3 kids. I am the person who's looking for the leveraged life. If you want to just work more, work 27 hours a day, I'm not your guy. What I am trying to find is how do we simplify the business to maximize the time and the return on your time that you put into the business. So we look for leverage points. So we'll do a diagnostic, then we'll implement a prioritized list of items, and then how do we build the feedback loops to know what's working? And so that's how that's the main value that I offer. As far as kind of working together, I have something called the co-creator community, which is brand new as of when you're listening to this, which is a way for folks to come in and use product to move their business forward in a collaborative sense. It's a reflection of all the things that I have found over the last 20 years to be valuable for myself. And so I'm offering it out to kind of the next round of entrepreneurs.
That's awesome. Very, very timely, and look forward to hearing the case studies from that. It's all like, I always love hearing people's transition from, working, like with 1 or 2 businesses to be able to serve multiple businesses at a very high level because they've zoned in and specified exactly what they're going to fix, how they're going to do it, timeline it, and just be able to be super confident in that promise. And you have an impressive track record and a big like resume of things you've done. But now I think it's really cool that you get to serve at a bigger audience and help a lot more businesses achieve that excellence they're looking for. So Tim, I've got a quick fire round now. So we've kind of done the full part. But before we get into it, I always ask everyone, Partner Up Profits Power Move. This is something that you've implemented in your business. Now, it could be partnership related, but it doesn't have to be limited. But basically, like what have you done or somebody has done for you or to you that opened a door? They got an email answered, they got the phone picked up, they got the deal signed. Like, what are secret strategies that you've implemented or have implemented in your business?
So I am a big proponent of personalized video. It has worked very well for me. So if you're not doing that, anytime you reach out to someone that you want to get the attention of, don't send an email. Pull up Loom, LLM, for those that haven't heard of it, and you can shoot a quick video and you can embed that in the email or send it directly to someone. It has gotten more doors opened for me than pretty much anything else that I've done.
And I've had that a few times. So I want to hear tactically, what are you doing in that video? What's your approach?
Personally, I am not all that scripted with that video.
Okay.
So, for me, it's just been repetition to find out. I do background work on them. So I'll usually have something unique that is not generally known. I'll usually try to connect a problem that I know that they're having. I do some research ahead of time. And so generally I try to solve some of those or give them insights into how I would think about solving the problem if I'm trying to get their attention as a potential client.
Nice. Okay. And where can I forgot to mention your website, but where's the best way to get in contact with you?
Oh, yeah. Instagram, I monitor my own DMs. So tim.calise, that's tim.calise, and DM me Joey, Joey, and I have a special gift as a listener for the show. One of the frameworks that I use that we talked about today.
Nice. I appreciate the hookup. And by the way, I was on your site and I was checking out the calculators and I was like, oh man, I got to build some of these with like what I want to do. It was really cool stuff. Man, yeah, like I'm looking forward to it. Everyone who wants to implement what we talked about today, I think just get on a call with him, get in contact with him, figure out if it's a good fit. But ultimately, I think you're open to conversations. And if you're answering your own DMs, then obviously that's the case, right?
Yeah, I've done a lot of things over the last 20 years. I'm just at a point in my life where I wake up in the morning wanting to create some impact. And I believe my legacy is around packaging all the lessons that I've learned. And if I can help you, feel free to reach out, shoot me a DM, and I'll help in any way I can.
Love it. I love the manifestation on that too, being very clear with what you want to attract. So now is the quickfire question round. It's 10 questions. It's first thing that comes to mind, and it's more on the personal side. So the first one's an easy one. Favorite food?
Favorite food, hummus, actually.
Okay. What's your best memory?
A vacation that I took with my family to the Caribbean about 7 years ago.
Nice. Okay. This one, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. If you had another go round and you got to write a new story for your life, what would it be in 30 seconds or less?
What would the story be?
Yeah, what would be the new Tim Calise be?
Oh, geez. Well, I'd love to be a race car driver, but above and beyond that, which I think is probably the low-hanging fruit, I would have hired a mentor and a therapist as soon as possible in my life. And I probably would have gotten to the answer of I like working in groups and to be a connector earlier in my career rather than trying to be a builder. My ego got in my way. And I think I probably wasted a decade of my life trying to prove my worth instead of understanding where my zone of genius is and just doubling down on that.
Yeah, same.
It's a common story, but I think if I was to do it all over again, I'd get my ego out of the way faster.
It's super powerful. So what's your best productivity hack that you've implemented just in your business or life?
For me, every morning I do a brain dump. I have a mentor who said, fear has no place on paper. And I think so many of us, we start our day with all these thoughts in our head, and it actually prevents us from thinking clearly and executing clearly. So I spend about 5 minutes every morning getting everything out of my head, and then I now have a way to organize it, and then I throw it away. So it's not like a journal, it's a one and done scrap paper, and then I move on with my day.
Wow. Okay. Because I do a to-do list, and like I would never. If I lost it the other day, and I was like freaking out.
Yeah, for me, it's just all these recurring thoughts that if I open loops are one of the things that will take us down because it is unaddressed issues, thoughts, feelings. Like get them out, put them on paper, look at them objectively, and then deal with it, and then move on. You will think so much clearer throughout your day.
Wow, that's therapeutic. Okay. I'm going to lean in and try that next time. Just like literally brain up and then just throw it away and burn it.
Well, there's a strategy we could talk about on exactly how to do it, and I'll coach you on that. No problem.
Right. I know this isn't the case for most people I talk to, but if you were to retire or in your traditional retirement years, what are you continuing to do that's serving your passion?
Right now I am in a season of documentation and kind of constructive thinking. One of my downsides is my brain's working so quickly that writing is the only way that I can slow down and actually process a lot of especially the concepts that I'm trying to document.
Are you looking to write like fiction or actual like programs?
For me, it's more about I have these stories that run through my head, and so getting those stories out in a way that can actually be constructive and structured is really the focus for me right now. And I love golf and doing other things, but primarily I would read and write.
I like that. So I started the podcast. I needed a therapeutic way to rant and ramble with people and talk to experts. I'm a big reader, so I like collecting books from people that I admire. What's a book that changed your life?
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell is my favorite book of the last year. I would absolutely recommend it. And I am part of the way through 2X is harder than 10X or whatever the right terminology is, which was one that was recommended to me. So
I just downloaded that on Audible the other day, but I heard the Dan Martell recommendation a few times now, so I'm going to pick that up too. I'm leaving
book
tomorrow, so I'll be able to get through a few books, I guess. Awesome. What do you want to be remembered for?
A father of three who deeply cared about the people that he was able to interact with.
I like that. It serves your connector spirit, right? That's kind of what you're leaving as a legacy. You mentioned this one up on top, I think, but like maybe you'd have a different skill. But what's a skill you'd recommend developing as early as possible in business or personal? It's just going to serve you over the lifetime.
Communication, specifically around copywriting, is something I wish I had learned earlier, because communicating in a condensed fashion that is persuasive is different than just writing. So I think writing with a purpose and things like that would be something I would learn probably earlier in my life.
Yeah, I agree with that. Persuasive writing and less is more.
Yeah.
I do the opposite often, but it's like, how do you whittle that down, right? And get that point across. Okay, if we're meeting up in a year from today, what are we celebrating? What are you working at that in a year, like we're meeting up and we're like, we did it finally?
Yeah. So my 3-year goal is to build a team so I can have a portfolio of companies that generate $100 million a year or more in revenue. And so by this time next year, I want to have that team in place, and I want to get to the first 10 million in that initiative.
Okay. Let's go. Time to go.
That's my 2024 goal. So I'm 9 days in.
Well, you're in the club, man, so you can't hide, right? So we'll be checking on that.
That's right.
And then one other thing is like, you might have a few, but like, what's the next thing on your bucket list that you really want to do? And it might be the Formula One thing, but there's something else on your radar that you've already started planning for.
That's a great question. Formula One race is coming up. That one's going to be a 2024 for me. I didn't make it to Vegas last year, which was the big opening round. No, my big bucket list trip is going to be, or thing to do, is with my family. I've committed to taking my kids between now and next year to Europe to show them they haven't traveled abroad. So taking them somewhere and showing them the sights. My mom's side of the family is from England, so we're going to head over there and show them a little bit more about the rest of the world.
That's awesome, man. That's like top of my thing. I want to continue to get my kids cultured and seeing places. Like I didn't travel until I was like 25, and I missed out on so much. And, part of the letting go of ego was just not traveling and seeing the world and finally seeing it and realizing that we're like, very insignificant in the grand scheme of things. That's a good thing to kind of realize at an early age. Last question, billboard question for you, Tim. If you had one clear articulated message to everyone listening regarding business in general, what would you put up as your billboard?
Well, so for me, my billboard is I make founders' dreams come true. But if I was to give general advice, it would be know yourself, set your standards, never compromise.
That's awesome, man. What a great way to end the interview. Tim, thank you so much for being here. This was one of my favorite interviews. It was a lot of fun. And everyone visit, you can find Tim. Listen, we can all find people. I don't think we have to spell it out every time. And they'll be in the show notes. But definitely get on a conversation with him while he's still answering his DMs, while you can still actually get a hold of him. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I greatly appreciate it as well. Thanks.
All right, guys, take care. We'll see you on the next one.